Welcome in, everyone, to this week's edition of the Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Adam the Jock Straczynski. On today's show, a major star was hurt in a primetime match, two major call-ups coming to fill out the women's roster in WWE, and is SmackDown staying 3 hours, or are we going to go back to 2? We're going to have all of that later on in the show. Fantastic week and weekends of wrestling. We got to break down WWE, and there's a lot of fallout from there, as well as AEW had another gauntlet of a pay-per-view with Double or Nothing, and it was a pretty good show. And there's a lot of fallout to get through with all of that. Help me break down this jam-packed show, sort it all out. He's the one. He's the only. He is the Doc, John Macaroon. What's up, cuz?
Cuz, good morning. It's a great time to talk to you, but I am a little disappointed. We have always heard in the wrestling world about the infamous plane ride from hell, but you declined to put the boat party from heaven on our rundown. So I'm going to take 60 seconds to share that I spent a good part of this week, yes, watching wrestling, but I analyzed that boat party that Natalia had for her birthday from a lot of different angles. Why? Because rightfully the internet wrestling community felt the need to share all the bikini photos, all the videos that were released of all the women that are friends on the roster partying on a boat for Natalia's birthday. Listen, I don't care that they broke kayfabe. It was great to see Rhea Ripley, Bailey, Natalia, Bianca Belair, Karrion Kross's valet. It was amazing. It was like, wow, these ladies really spent a day. It looked like having a good time. It's now known, I think, because of all, like every day, a new video would show up with a new person. There would be Indy Hartwell, one of the persons that was released. So this is now known on the Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast as the Boat Party from Heaven. Check it out. It's all over the internet. Natalia celebrated her birthday in grand fashion, and definitely the Doc enjoyed all the photos and all the debates about kayfabe being broken, cause a lot to get into. But yeah, first and foremost, Boat Party from Heaven was awesome, and I did not make it through AEW's pay-per-view. 10:45, 10:40. I'm like, oh no. I did debate though. It was a good show. I did debate. Do I make coffee? Do I try to stay up? I'm like, oh hell no. And I was just out. And the main event, cause it's just wrong. It's always going to be our thesis for your main event, bell to ring to start the match at 11:47 and end at 12:30. It's just a lot. It's a lot for the fans. It's 5.5 hours. This is a television event as well, and the internet wrestling community is so smart, cuz they just said, "Fine, you want to run 5-hour pay-per-views? Start the damn thing at 7.
Mm-hmm.
Start it at 7. End it at midnight. No matter what." Give us a chance, Tony. Give us a chance. You miss a lot of good things. You miss arguably a match of the year candidate, but by and large, cuz Anarchy in the Arena delivered. The pay per view was a B plus, no doubt about it. I just felt like the ending of the pay per view. We could start there if you want and work our way down, but I just felt like the wrong guy went over. Will Ospreay is the superstar of the company. I get it. You were right. Texas sold. If you really thought about it business wise, they want to sell the Texas Cowboy, and that's Adam Hangman Page. It was a great match, stellar story told in the ring. All in all, a beautiful match, one worthy of a main event. Each guy wanting to put the other over. Beautiful. It was just worthy. But unfortunately, the biggest star is Adam Hangman Page. He's just not. He's just not. Page is good, but he's not at the level of Will Ospreay. But to AEW's credit, when they're taking the heat for not telling a story, they are telling a story. It's just not one that I want to be told. It's the story of the redemption of Adam Hangman Page.
Yep.
Well, 2 years is a damn long time to be redeemed, my man. I'm an ADHD guy moving forward in a fast-paced podcasting world. I want the ascension of the guy, which is Will freaking Ospreay, who's the baddest man on the planet. He is by far total package. Look, entrance, connectivity, in ring performer, fluidity on the microphone, can elicit any emotion you want. I want to pay and take money out my pocket to see Will Ospreay. So, do I want to do that for Hangman Page? The answer is no.
See, I think you're wrong. I think the right guy did go over here. And look, from the sounds of it and by reports, Tony Khan didn't even know who was going to win this match until the day of, to what sounded like a couple hours before this match actually took place. And Hangman said that Will should have won, and Will said that Hangman should have won. They went to Tony and they had individual conversations with him, like, no, this is the guy who should win this match. So, all that being said, it doesn't sound like even the guy who was booking the match knew, and it didn't sound like the guys who actually were in the match wanted themselves to win. So that kind of tells you about there really isn't a right or wrong answer, but I'm going to defend the selection of Hangman Page winning this match. I think there's so much meat on this bone with the story that Hangman has. And it's now not just Hangman, right? You loop in Swerve Strickland and you loop in Will Ospreay. And what transpired on Dynamite was really kind of this Avengers Unite type of moment, right? It's almost like if you watched any of the Marvel movies and you watched Avengers Civil War, where you've got Captain America on one side and you've got Iron Man on the other, and everything's just kind of falling apart. It really does kind of feel like Will Ospreay is drunk Thor in all of this, right? And you got to kind of everybody's got to kind of pull it all together, put their differences aside, pull together because they have to trust in Hangman to go beat John Moxley, to go beat the Death Riders, to be able to overthrow what has been this dark cloud over all of AEW for such a long time. I think this is fantastic. And I think with Hangman, like you said, there's almost a 2-year long storyline of him trying to search and find himself, him trying to figure things out. When Swerve approaches him on Dynamite and asks for answers for the response that the Young Bucks had, there was going to be no answer that Hangman could give that was going to be good enough. There was nothing that Hangman was going to be able to say to Swerve that was going to change his mind unless he said, yes, I'm with the Young Bucks, and I asked them to do that for me. That was the only thing that was going to satisfy him. And so now you've got this built-in layer now. You've got this additional storyline inside all of this that has to be figured out before Hangman can get into that match with John Moxley. They somehow have to figure out a way to put their differences aside and make it to where Hangman can now solely focus on taking out John Moxley and the Death Riders. And Will Ospreay is there trying to play peacemaker, trying to unite these guys. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't even realize Will Ospreay and Swerve had a relationship like they had. I didn't know that was a thing. So there was another little bit of a layer that you got to this story. I feel storyline wise, this is so rich, and this was the right call. It was the right call to go with Hangman. Yes, I agree with you. Will Ospreay is the future of the business. Will Ospreay is the future of the industry. Will Ospreay is the future of AEW. He's been those things for years. I think right now, right guy, right time, right place is Hangman Page. I think him winning this match was the right call because it allows you to develop such a rich tapestry for what is to come and what will help sell arguably their biggest pay-per-view in All In.
Yep.
So I'm all about Hangman winning this match. I thought it was absolutely fantastic.
And it's pretty clear the people in the United States probably are not going to see Will Ospreay win his first title in AEW in terms of a world title on their soil. I think they're going to pretty much clearly, if Hangman Page, probably worthy of a nice year-long run, if they get All In back at Wembley or a big show that takes place in his home country, I think that it makes sense that Will Ospreay deserves to get a big win in front of the crowd that supports him the most, and probably the biggest crowd in the history of wrestling will probably take place if they end up going back to the home country of Tony Khan, who has done a great job with Fulham, the soccer club, keeps staying up in the Premier League year after year, doing good stuff there. So he's got ties to England and Wembley and All In. So we got to wait another year or so, or maybe sooner. You never know. But Will Ospreay's story, I got you, cuz. I got you. It makes sense. You were right. Hangman Page winning tells a story that's been told a little bit longer than Will Ospreay, and in a sense, because of the mega star status of Mr. Will Ospreay, the aerial assassin, he now gives the rub to Hangman Page, the rocket fuel he needs to be believable, to be worthy of the champion. The promo was good from Page to describe what went down,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought it was a good start and good main
Here's
event.
the thing too. I think both these guys they're different good guys, right?
Yep.
They're varying degrees of superheroes.
Exactly.
When you look at Hangman Page, even Swerve, factor Swerve into this mix too. All three of them. These are these are the three big faces of this company right now.
Yep.
And they're all varying degrees of sort of flawed men. They're all varying degrees of what you would consider a good guy. You have Will Ospreay, who is probably like your true north. He is the guy who is good all the way through. You've got Swerve, who has a little bit of, he's like chaotic good, right? Like he is a good guy, but he's willing to go to places and do things that a lot of other guys just aren't.
Yep.
But he will justify it for the good of the cause. Doesn't matter. I will be that guy if you need me to be that guy, and I will take an axe to somebody's back, into the back of their head, because it has to be done in order for us to win. And then you've got Hangman kind of in the middle. He's this kind of almost good neutral type of character, because he's on this, he's on, like you said, he's on his redemption quest. He's been there. He's been to those pits. He's been to that dark place. He's trying to become more like Will Ospreay, where he's coming out of a place that's very much like Swerve. And I think that adds, like I said, it just adds a layer of intrigue and interest. Like you've got your own story right there with those three guys. And I think to have those three guys as the face of your company, as the faces of the face of your company, I think is fantastic, especially when you look what's up opposite of them. You got a guy like John Moxley, who has his own crew and does his own thing and runs things the way he wants to run them. And then don't forget, it really does feel like throughout all of this, you've had John Moxley doing all these things. You still have the Young Bucks, who still play this role of running things behind the scene, almost puppeting what is taking place in front of us, being the COOs or the CEOs, and doing what they're doing, being able to kind of set up matches and call matches and do things, almost acting like they are the on-screen booker, and though we know they're not, they're still part of this. So you've got all of this, and you need these three guys to somehow come together to figure out how to take down all of this. I think it adds just a layer of intrigue. And I think the guys that you've got at the top all have really fantastic stories and are fantastic in their own rights.
No doubt. And then you get to Anarchy in the Arena, and the exploding table I thought was crazy. When you slow it down to see the sparks fly into Kenny Omega's face was crazy. It was wild. It was just a wild. It lived up to the billing. It was just all over the place. The baby faces end up winning, and they handle business. But many people are saying it probably was the best Anarchy in the Arena that they ever did. It truly lived to, um, in my opinion, I do think it's a little bit of a risky match to have annually, to have a match where it's just going to go bonkers ape shit every single year. But they keep doing it, and the wrestlers are willing to put themselves out there for a performance. I just think it's too much, man. It's just, you got people flying into equipment, you got people flying into flying tables, 15 different high spots. A little risky, but my goodness, for the performers willing to do that, thank you. It's crazy. It's a crazy match. This year lived up to the billing.
Yeah, it was one of the most bonker matches in like all of the best ways you could think about. It was just crazy spot after crazy spot. There was a shot that I believe they showed on Dynamite, and it was a cool spot in the match where you've got Claudio doing the giant swing, and he's swinging Swerve around, throws him into a speaker, and they're playing music through this entire thing, and different variations of different music. It was a whole thing to kind of start the match with Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks and all of that. And the moment he hits the speaker, the music goes out. Like I thought that was it was just a little cool homage, just a little cool thing. There's little nuggets in this entire match. And look, you had the women fighting, and I thought that was fantastic, because I don't feel like um, um, Marina Shafir gets enough in-ring work, and I think she's starting to get a little bit more. They've really worked with her, and I think she's come a long way. We all know Willow Nightingale's fantastic, so I think seeing those two tie up is really, really great. And look, Kenny Omega will always have fantastic entrances. Swerve, fantastic entrance. Young Bucks, fantastic entrance. It was just like you said, it was a whole spectacle from the moment it started to the moment it ended, in the match or the move to end the match, it was basically a swerve stomp with tacks in his shoes. Like, how awesome was that? Like, absolutely fantastic. But it was a great match. Before that match actually, or after that match took place, we did have the Don Callis family defeating Paragon. That was kind of the setup for what was the Hangman Page and Will Ospreay match. The crowd was absolutely dead for that match because how could you not after what you just witnessed with Anarchy in the arena? Before Anarchy in the arena, we had Timeless Tony Storm defeating Mina Shirakawa.
Yep.
Very good match. Kazuchika Okada defeated Speedball Mike Bailey to retain his Continental title. Before that match, we had the Hurt Syndicate taking on the Sons of Texas. I thought this match did a really nice job, kind of showing how misplaced MJF is. At certain points, MJF shows up, wants the cheat to win, and they're like, "No, this is not what we do. We hurt people. We beat people up. This is how we do things." And it was just kind of the theme, and it kind of rolled through. And by the end of it, it seemed like they kind of got on the same page, but initially very disjointed. What are your thoughts with MJF going forward? I thought there was a really nice backstage vignette. I thought MJF feels like he is a more of a talking piece. Really, it was MVP who was always the talking piece of the Hurt Syndicate. I feel like MJF, because he can cut such great promos, feels like he's going to do a lot more talking for this group. And I think that might be where things kind of fall apart a little bit. Remember, Bobby Lashley, not fantastic on a mic. Shelton Benjamin does a good enough job. So really, it's MVP kind of holding the stick and really selling what these guys are doing. Kind of feels like MJF might step on a couple of toes and might hurt some feelings and might cause some bruised egos here. What do you think about MJF in this group going forward? And did this match do enough to make you feel kind of like he was a bit of the oddball?
Yeah, real fast. MVP had himself quite a week in the ring in the work he did with the Hurt Syndicate, and as well as away from the ring in regards to the comments he made about Triple H, which you could surmise he would feel about his former employer and how
Please
Bobby Lashley.
explain those a little bit since,
Yeah,
since you
yeah.
brought those up.
MVP went out and said directly into the greatest now era of wrestling podcasts that he has no respect for Triple H, and he's going to get into it further. So wait to be determined. He's going to have his own podcast where he's going to share in detail what his beef is with Triple H and how Bobby Lashley and him were booked and the way that he feels about, which is now kind of coming more and more to the forefront, how Triple H and WWE have booked minority performers. He's not happy, and it went all over the interwebs. And you can see excerpts of the clip, and he said, "I got more to come." So MVP is definitely going to air some of the dirty laundry of his former employer, and now when they say we hurt people, he's trying to hurt the creative content, the content chief at WWE, and it's a fair argument to say, okay, let's look at how some of the minorities have been built, and then specifically with Bobby Lashley, they kind of felt like maybe the two-time WWE champion wasn't respected. And I think you're absolutely right. I think MJF now is set up as the agitator, set up as the voice of the Hurt Syndicate, and now you got to set up the layer of his bonds and develop his attachment to the group before you decide what you do next. So I thought it was great all the way around. The Hurt Syndicate is being used properly in this fashion, in this company. It's good for them.
Yeah, I think what you've got going on with MVP inside AEW, not outside AEW, inside AEW, mixing in MJF, I think it just kind of adds, like I said, I talk a lot about layers with stories.
Yep.
Just adds another layer, and he can kind of be that internal protagonist, trying to incite whatever it is out of the guys in the Hurt Syndicate. So I think it's a nice addition, and I think it's going to be a really, really good story. Ricochet ends up defeating Mark Briscoe in a stretcher match. FTR ends up defeating Nigel McGuinness and Daniel Garcia. Mercedes Monet kicks off the show, kicks off the main card. She defeats Jamie Hayter. So this led to a couple of things on Dynamite that I'd like to touch base on before we get into the pre-show. We did this whole thing in reverse, which is a little bit weird here. So Mercedes Monet wins. Let's be honest. She did not need to win this, but she did. This sets up a match between her and Toni Storm. I thought the promo that we got to close Dynamite was fantastic. I thought Toni Storm did an exceptional job. I have a bit of a take, and I'm wondering what you think. To me, it feels as though Mercedes Moné has been and was in WWE put in this spot to look incredible. And I think she did a really good job taking that to the indies and doing some stuff on the indies with it. I think she did a good job of taking some of that rub that she had in WWE and utilized it well when she went to New Japan. I think she started off her AEW career, even though I thought it was a little bit, I thought it could have been better. I think she used it to help elevate herself in AEW. I think you see a dramatic difference between Toni Storm and Mercedes Moné. And I think you see a dramatic difference with Mercedes Moné being in the ring with somebody who is on her level or above her. I think Toni Storm is going to show a lot of the cracks in the armor that are Mercedes Moné. Watching this promo between the two, I felt like Mercedes Moné came into it very comfortable. And after the way Toni Storm's quick wit and Toni Storm's ability to put thoughts and sentences and put different things together and flip the tables on Mercedes Moné, I felt like towards the end of this promo, Mercedes Moné was very uncomfortable. And it felt like going into this promo, it felt like Mercedes Moné was the bigger star. It felt like they were very close, but on like a scale of 1 to 10, it felt like Mercedes Moné came in at 9.5, 10, while Toni Storm started off at like a 7, 8. By the end of it, scale only goes to 10. Toni Storm felt like she was a 12 plus, and Mercedes Moné felt like she was very much a 7. I think you're going to see a lot of unrefined characteristics of Mercedes Moné. I think you're going to see a character and a performer who is not as good as we thought she was, who is not as good and is not as packaged and is not as polished as we assumed she is. And it's going to be at the hands of Toni Storm just being Toni Storm. I don't think there'll be any malice in this, but what I seen in this segment, in this promo, Toni Storm looks like she is an absolute star. Mercedes Moné looks like upper mid card.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you got the same feeling coming out of this promo.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Toni Storm's on a different level. Mercedes Moné has to work her way up there in the promo game, and
isn't that crazy to say though? Because in WWE, Mercedes Moné was one of the 3 or 4 girls there, but 3 or 4 women there. But she goes to the Indies, does her whole thing on the Indies. She comes to AEW, and they hit her with a fat check. And there's a lot of talk about her having creative control. And then you look at somebody like Toni Storm, who was just kind of very mid in WWE. They allow her to be what she wants to be in AEW. And she has blossomed, and she is incredible. That, to me, that is absolutely nuts to say.
Listen, it's one of those things where, depending your viewpoint, I just think that we have to credit Toni Storm more than blaming Mercedes Moné. I think that competition should elevate.
That was total credit to Toni Storm.
Yes.
I was not trying to take anything away from Mercedes Moné, but what I was trying to highlight was we give a lot of praise to Mercedes Moné. We expect a lot out of Mercedes Moné. And to see Toni Storm's development and her blossom is absolutely incredible. So much so that I feel that she completely outshined Mercedes Moné in a spot that Mercedes Moné
should have
regularly dominates.
Yes, and that's what we're seeing, is that the Toni Storm ascension is really putting together all of the wrestling personality, the charisma, and the in-ring work as well. So that's where we start to think that, okay, in the power rankings, we would move Toni Storm way ahead of Mercedes Moné, and the CEO's got to do a good job. And I do think that it's good because I think it'll elevate her. I do think that she knows, Mercedes Monet knows that Tony Storm is killing it, and that's can only be good for their matches. They'll make money together, and it should potentially elevate what Mercedes Monet, aka Sasha Banks, should be able to do moving forward. So I'm happy to see it. Tony Storm can be a legitimate force and be a factor and be a top of the women's division where you can get a lot of attention, opportunities, matches, time, TV time. So it'll be good, I think, for all involved, where you realize, okay, Tony Storm's taking the ball and running with it, and let's see what now Mercedes Monet does with it.
Yeah, I think that was definitely a volley back to her
Yep,
court saying,
yep,
"Here you go. Let's see what you can do.
yep.
Can you match me? Can you get to my level? Because right now, girl, you are not on my level." As far as pre-show goes, we had an 8-man tag match that saw AR Fox, Bandito, Commander, and Hologram defeat Leo Rush, Action Andretti, Rocky Romero, and Trent Beretta. Before that, though, to kick off the pre-show, we had Harley Cameron, who helped secure the win for her and Anna Jay as she pinned Penelope Ford while Megan Bayne was neutralized on the outside. Now, these 4 women would then have a match on Dynamite. And this was a no DQ, anything goes type of street fight match. And there was a lot of blood and a lot of people beat up in this match. It was actually absolutely brutal. It was a really, really bloody match on Wednesday night. Harley Cameron, Anna Jay, both end up losing the no DQ match. Cameron is believed to have a broken nose. It looks really bad. There was a spot where she basically got slammed into the top of the steel stairs. Anna Jay in this match also needed medical attention. I'm not sure what her status is, but she also needed to be tended to. At the end, there was a scene where the camera just kind of focused on Cameron's nose, and it looked pretty busted up. The doctor was trying to touch it, and she basically waved his hand off, and you could see her being very upset. Her nose did not look good. I also did miss something when we were talking about the Mercedes Monet and the Jamie Hayter match. Where does Jamie Hayter kind of go with all of this, right? That was the big question coming out of this match that I had. What goes on for Jamie Hayter? Well, we kind of find out a little bit on Dynamite. It sounds as though she's going to have to deal with Tekla. Tekla debuted on Dynamite, attacked Jamie Hayter. Now, this has been teased for a couple of weeks. I wanted to get your thoughts on what you thought about Tekla's package, and did commentary do enough to help you understand who she is? We talk about this a lot. AEW will bring new wrestlers in, they will debut them, and they just kind of give us a little snippet. They just kind of give us a little bit about who they are. Then you kind of got to go figure out the rest for yourself. Now, Tekla has been teased for probably about 3 weeks now. You've seen little red spiders here and there. Shows up, lights go out, attacks Jamie Hayter. Jamie Hayter's laid out in the middle of the ring. The messed up thing is the camera wasn't actually on the attack of Jamie Hayter. Like the lights go out and you hear a little bit of rustling around. There's a thing that pops up on the screen. The camera's so focused on the screen and the emblem that by the time you cut back to the ring, Jamie Hayter's already laid out and Tekla's kind of standing over her. I thought that was a missed spot because you didn't get to see her actually attack Jamie Hayter. And then I think she's got a really interesting look. I think it looks almost suburban Julia-esque. If you think of Julia from WWE, I think kind of the way that they physically appear and the way that they're kind of packaged a little bit, she looks more like the suburban version of what Julia is. And I myself don't think commentary did enough to really help you understand who she actually is. They did give you a little bit of insight saying that she did get fired. She was from Stardom. She did get fired for attacking the promotion owner, and she was basically let go because of that. So, like, cool, you got a little nugget, but I don't think you really understand her. And I feel like you could have did some different vignettes to kind of lead into some of the teasing that you got that would have really have helped put things into perspective. What did you make of Tekla's debut, and what do you think about Tekla and Jamie Hayter now pairing up? Jamie Hayter basically going from challenging Mercedes Monet in the Owen Hart Women's Foundation Cup to now taking on this new debuting wrestler.
No doubt. And here's what we've now realized. Oh, we got a debuting wrestler. Lights got to go out. Got to be all black, and we got to figure it out. So again, I think we can conclusively say now that AEW has kind of fallen into a rut with their debut of performers. This one wasn't good. I don't know more about Thekla than I did based on the debut. Clearly, they announced where she was from. But again, Tony Khan appeals to the marks. And unfortunately, I think the marks can figure out who Thekla is. They know. You got to tell the millions of other people who don't know who she is what the deal is. Not good enough. Yep, you're absolutely right. Would have been more beneficial to just have some vignettes. And I think we can lay to rest the idea that the lights got to go out. Okay, the next time the lights got to go out is when you get the next WWE star who's like been in the ring and maybe been a world champion. Like, save it for something big. Lights go out is now, you've conditioned me to hate it. I hate it. It's stupid. And now you can't even get the production right. It was a botch. I didn't like it. I don't care about Thekla. Great. Okay, let's see what she does now. She's in the company, has been rumored. It wasn't really all that much of a surprise. So get after it, do your thing, and get yourself over in this company. Hopefully you don't end up being one of the ladies that just falls by the wayside.
Yeah, I think she can. I think she can do a lot of good. And I think given the right lengths and being packaged well, there's the kind of the rub. I think she could be a really interesting character. My hope is that she does not get lost in the sauce. My fear is Jamie Hayter is now slipping down the card, and we don't really have a spot for Jamie Hayter anymore. So she was fantastic years ago, and her getting teamed up with Britt Baker, it really, I think, helped elevate her career. Britt's no longer there. I'm not really sure what's going on with Britt Baker anymore. I don't even know if she's going to wrestle ever again. And then it just kind of feels like Jamie Hayter's just kind of a wrestler at this point. So the other big thing that kind of came out of Dynamite this week, and this kind of goes back to the pay-per-view length. We're going to get a 4-hour Fighter Fest next week, which means that we're going to get a 4-hour television show. Now, I have a hard time with 3-hour SmackDowns and Raws have been condensed because now they can kind of do whatever they want on Netflix. But a 4-hour wrestling program in the middle of your week, to me, just doesn't work. And there was this interesting conversation that was had by Brian Alvarez on Wrestling Observer Radio. And I just kind of want to give you a little bit of snippets. This was in regards to AEW and Double or Nothing, and it being way too long, and some of the shows being too long. And Alvarez said, yesterday I spent the whole day talking to all sorts of people in AEW. I will say with one exception, because if I said everybody, then you know, but it was actually everybody. Every single person was like, these shows are too long. We all know it. The show should end before midnight on the East Coast. Every single person in the company that I talked to, except Tony, because I didn't talk to him, because of course he doesn't think they're too long. Every single person there is like, they're too long. He just does it. We can't stop it. There's nothing that can be done. The shows are too long. Everybody knows it except Tony and a small handful of sickos that would watch the show if it were 9 hours long. You just came off of a pay-per-view that was 5+ hours. You're now giving a television show that is going to be 4 hours, and there's a good chance you're going to have a run over, so it's going to be 4+ hours. it to me, man, it's just like you made a mistake, and you constantly make these mistakes with your pay-per-views, and now you're going to do it with your television show. It's just too damn long. It is too long. You don't give enough good programming to have a show that long. You know, you don't give us enough quality to have a show that long. I think WWE with their pay-per-views for the most part has it right. They take those B-level pay-per-views, they slap 5 matches on it. And those pay-per-views are 2.5, 3 hours long. And the matches that you get and the length of them and the quality is fantastic. You don't need much more than that. You don't need more than a 3-hour program. This is going to be 4 hours on a Wednesday. I believe it's going to start at 6 o'clock. I believe it's going to start at 6 o'clock Eastern time. I'd have to go back and double check. But from 6 to 10, that is wrestling programming that'll be taking place. That is too much, man. That is way too much. Well, what are your thoughts on having now a 4 hour, coming off of a 5.5 hour pay per view, now having a 4 hour television show?
Yeah, you said it great, man. It's just too much. I mean, we're not going to peek into it all in one shot. You just force people to break it up in parts and check in and stuff like
And
that.
here's the thing, when you do that, it really disrupts the flow of your show. It disrupts the feel of your show. Listen, this is a guy who has a bit going on during the week. You're a guy who is incredibly busy as well during the week. When you've got to go back and you've got to watch it, either DVR'd or however you got to get it, it disrupts the feel and the tone of the show, because what you find yourself doing is racing through commercials. You end up missing small spots that bump in and out of those commercials. There is an overall feel to the program. You miss that. It kills it. It takes away from the viewing pleasure of the show, because now it becomes a chore just to get to the end. And
Absolutely.
you're doing that with a 4 hour program.
And so what you force people to do is watch the Twitter page and get the clips of what's going on. That's just unfortunately what happens. And you take people away because it's just too much time. It's just way too much. But hey, that's what he's doing, and that's what he believes. It's that, and we've said it before, and we'll say it again. He is appealing to the very hardcore fan and does not care because he got paid. He doesn't have to care. I mean, he seems like his P&L sheets are happy. He's good. He gets to come out and scream his head off and be a wrestling promoter. And I just don't think the attention to the word growth is there. They're like, we do what we do, take it or leave it. And I think at this point, it's a moot point to tell him what to do. He's in control of the company. He does it, but we can clearly surmise that this company won't grow if they continue. Great. You can be a great wrestling company. Congratulations. You're the indie. Basically, AEW is the indie movie that gets all the credit, all the love, all the tears from the people that sit and review it and go, "Oh my God, this is the most beautiful cinematic piece in the history of the world. I love it." And you look at the box office, it cost $10 million to make and it drew $400,000. And everyone's like, "This is a beautiful movie." And you look at it and you go, "But it lost like $10 million. It's a beautiful movie. It's beautiful. It's cinematic. It's just art." It's like, okay, but we do got to talk about the fact that you can't make more art if you lose $10 million on the movies that you make. So, but in the end for him, his P&L sheets are pretty happy. He got a television deal. I don't know if the company's going to grow. I don't know, but they've downsized. It's clear, and the gap between them and their competition has widened. They are definitely the wrestling company, but they're not adding anything else to make it so that they grow or change or adapt or modernize. So basically, it's like 1986 WWE before Eric Bischoff gets there.
Yeah.
Or WCW.
Yeah. No, I know what you meant. I just don't.
Yeah.
Dude, it's
4 hours,
frustrating,
Mike. Yeah,
and I
4
just
hours.
don't.
Wow.
I just don't get it.
All right.
It just doesn't make sense. All right, let's switch gears. Let's go WWE, because we've got a lot to talk about here with WWE. There's a whole lot to get through with AEW. We've got a ton to get through with WWE. A lot of fallout from this weekend. TNA champ Joe Hendry ends up dropping his title to Trick Williams. Now, it sounds like the TNA locker room is not happy with this. Sounds like some of the higher ups at TNA are uncomfortable with this and are not happy with this. Does this make sense to you? You tend to watch a little bit more NXT than I do. I'll be honest with you. I don't watch a ton of NXT. And you are very much all aboard the Joe Hendry train. I, too, am a big proponent of Joe Hendry. To me, this makes absolutely no sense. The fact that TNA would allow their champion, a guy that they've been building for what feels like 18 months, to drop a belt to Trick Williams makes no sense to me. And I get it. There's this overarching story.
Yeah.
For your belt to be on a WWE wrestler,
it's fine.
I feel like that is very dangerous.
It's fine. It's happened before. You look at it and you say NXT titles will be fought and defended for by TNA. It's a partnership. And so here's the deal. WWE. Listen. Yes. Listen.
Is it?
Listen. Um,
I
in
feel
the
like
end,
WWE's taking advantage of TNA here.
it's the monster company. They're the parents here, and they crack the whip. They're the boss. But they did TNA a huge solid, okay? Outside of wins and losses, because for most, we're not looking at that. They allowed the TNA belt to show up at WrestleMania to quite arguably the biggest pop of the night.
To then be fed to Randy
It doesn't
Orton
matter.
in
Doesn't
2.5
it
minutes,
doesn't matter.
bro.
Doesn't matter.
Again,
It doesn't
just
matter.
shitting on Joe Henry's
It
chest.
doesn't matter because again, Triple H said it. He's like, "We are going to take you. You are going to be a WWE star." So in the end, that was one favor done to them. They're exposing TNA to a lot of people, a lot of free attention that TNA deservedly. Now, most people would say on the TNA side, well, it's brand loyal. It goes to the idea of partnering up. And you could always stay independent, and that's great. But just look at Pat McAfee. He could have made a lot of money being independent, but when $18 million a year comes to partner with ESPN, nobody is going to turn that down. So TNA,
Joe was better when he was independent.
hey, but exactly when you partner with a big brand, you get the big dollars, and so that's what WWE in essence is doing. Is they're partnering with Netflix. They're moving away from being independent. They are partnering with everybody. And they partnered with TNA and they said, okay, we want to build a relationship. We're giving you a lot of free attention, lot of attention, putting your stars on ours. Now, what we need to do is get a little bit of rub on our guy, Trick Williams, and we're going to do that by giving him the belts. No big deal in
Yeah,
any
but here's the
capacity.
deal.
It's not a
Wasn't
big
Trick
deal at
Williams
all.
the guy who a couple weeks ago we were talking about being called up to the main roster?
It should
and
happen.
He's going to
Yeah.
flourish on the main roster. What kind of rub does he need? He doesn't need any sort of rub.
Who, Trick Williams?
Yes.
But having a title, running feuds, there are little nuggets of knowledge that you learn when you have a belt and people are coming after you. So this is all part of the learning tree. And it's great for Trick Williams. It's all part of the evolution of a character. Now you have a belt. Now you have an opportunity where, cause I don't you think that now the next step is you build the next rub going down from Trick Williams to Mike Santana. Mike Santana is a superstar. Like he was an amazing component of Santana and Ortiz for so long. Now he steps foot into NXT and everybody's like, holy shit, it's Santana. He gets a little extra rub when you and he said he's so humbled that WWE let him be Santana and now have a feud with Trick Williams. It's amazing. It's I think a great partnership for TNA because you have to accept TNA is peaked. They are not going to move forward past wherever they are because unfortunately they're the third, fourth company in the world and just based on their slot.
They run their company like a bunch of jabronis.
Yes, but that's just the way it's going to be.
All the time.
It's just the way it's going to be. They're going to be the company where people pick them apart, and so they partnered. It's ECW. It's just one of those companies that has to use other companies for rubs. So you got to take what the other partner says and says, hey, we want to do that. You say okay, because then Santana can show up in NXT. All these other people as well. It's unfortunate that yes, we all think TNA should be at a higher level. They're not. They're not going to be. And unfortunately, if you're a TNA like original, sorry, you partner with WWE, you got to take losses to WWE and build some of their stars, and then your stars show up on their programming and end up getting bigger opportunities. So it's a win-win for everybody involved, except for the small, die-hard TNA honks that are just like, we need original TNA, like we don't need WWE. Unfortunately, you do, and there's more benefit for Joe Hendry in the year that he did with NXT than in all of his career at TNA. So it's good for everybody involved, and I think everybody that's upset by it, just really look at the big picture and accept that TNA would, by themselves, not be able to compete. Too many dollars elsewhere, too much competition, and it's been 25 years. So it's one of those deals where you can only peak. And so now they have new management. They're partnering with WWE. You got to take what you're getting.
All right. I guess the other big fallout from this weekend was Saturday night's main event. That was Bronson Reed is the newest member of Seth Rollins' group. Has WWE done a good enough job explaining this? Remember, Reed hit Seth with like 6 tsunamis, and then Bronson Reed kind of ran into a little bit of trouble with Adam Pearce online, where Adam Pearce was suspending him, and he didn't want to be suspended. And to me, it never really felt like we had closure there. It kind of just felt like that got sent off into the distance along with Bronson Reed. And then we didn't see Bronson Reed on television for what felt like 6 months, maybe 8 months. And now all of a sudden Bronson Reed shows up and he's the fourth member of whatever this group is with Seth and Paul Heyman. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
to me, it just feels weird.
No, it was good. Because on Raw, Seth Rollins said, "Look, we're bringing in a guy that was ballsy enough to come and attack me. It's fine. It's good enough as of an explanation. It fits. It harkens back to Evolution and all that kind of stuff. And you're trying to make stars, and Triple H is like, ooh, I like this. This is memory lane. I got my enforcer, Bronson Reed. I got the star in Seth Rollins, the lead, the Ric Flair, the big dog, and then we got Braun Breaker, who's the young up and coming Randy Orton doing his thing. So it's wrestling, and I like the group. Unfortunately, they're running up against the slow time of the year where the ratings are bad, and everybody's like, "See, look, Seth Rollins can't be a leader. Less Seth Rollins. Give it time to breathe. It's new. Seth Rollins looks like a guy that, unfortunately, based on the programming now, kind of maybe made Money in the Bank a little predictable. But that's fine. I just want to see what's going on. I'm intrigued by it. Paul Heyman is just an amazing leader. Will do the great things, and I think they did a good enough job to explain Bronson Reed. No problems.
All right. We'll see what happens. Because to me, I'm just kind of like,
What?
okay. Like I was watching all this unfold, and I'm like, wasn't Bronson Reed the guy who
Yeah,
attacked Seth Rollins and delivered six? And like I had to go,
yeah,
like I had to go double check
yeah,
because I was like, is my mind playing
yeah,
tricks on me?
and then
And I was
by
like, nope, nope, nope. That was right. That was how
yeah.
that played out. And I was like, whatever happened with that story? And I had to go back and try to figure out whatever happened to that story.
Yeah,
But
and then by and large, Saturday night's main event was a flop in regards to the fact it was great matches, but you had way too many commercials. You had 5 minutes of action, 4 minutes of commercials, and then they had two. Cause they went to the main event and they had two commercials starting at 9:50, 9:48. Two sets of commercials. You interrupt the main event that many times. Everybody was just talking about how many commercials ruined it. The card was great. On paper, that's an amazing card. It's just one of those deals where on television, it came off like crap. Not entertaining, not fun to watch. And I thought that, Drew, and I love that Jesse Ventura was mad at at Damian Priest for walking out the cage. He marked out there. It was funny. I thought John Cena definitely acted like a heel, which was great. It's just unfortunately the presentation marred what was going on because you just had way too many interruptions that ruined the flow. And the biggest question of the night, because I'll ask you, should they have used Saturday night's main event to bring back Cody Rhodes? Many people are debating it and saying, well, it's great for the in ring audience. They all marked out, but Saturday night's main event for a guy, you could have just brought him back at Money in the Bank. Did they rush his return?
I think it sets up for Money in the Bank. I feel like Money in the Bank overall, besides the two big matches, and we're going to get into some more qualifying that took place on both Monday Night Raw and on SmackDown. I feel like you need something else, right? Like those two matches are fantastic, but you can't just have those two matches. You can't just have that Becky Lynch match. I think this helps kind of flesh out that card a little bit, and I think it's going to help send this into wherever these two storylines are going to go from here. I'm not sure what Cody Rhodes is going to do. I'm not sure if he's going to end up getting locked into a long-term storyline with John Cena, or maybe it's something with Logan Paul, and maybe it's you've got when is Survivor Series, because I feel like if you've got John Cena, this could be the setup for Survivor Series, which is probably a long way away, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like in November, I think.
Yep.
So, my thought would be this would be your setup for Survivor Series, where you have John Cena challenging Jey Uso. You know what I'm saying? Where you have champion versus champion. Do we have a night of champions, don't we? Maybe we're gonna have that take place. I, I'd have to look at the WWE calendar, and my fault for not doing that. But there could be more storyline coming out of this. This could be the setup for something else. So I don't have a problem with him debuting here. And you talked about it being a little bit of a flat presentation, right? Like overall, Saturday night's main event was not great by any stretch of the imagination. Um, I feel like that was kind of the talking piece, right? You generally want to have these large network programs. You want to have these come away with something for people to kind of point at and talk about. And a returning Cody Rhodes
Yeah.
who attacks John Cena, you got to remember too, John Cena is a gigantic movie star. As much as he is a wrestler first, he is a gigantic movie star. Cody Rhodes was the face of the company for almost 2 years now. Even when he wasn't having the belt, he was like the face of the company, doing all of the media engagement, shaking hands, kissing babies. So him coming back, I think this gives you that little niche, that little thing that big mainstream media can grab a hold of, your Good Morning America can grab a hold of and show you your 30-second voiceover where they're like, and on Saturday, John Cena was attacked by Cody Rhodes, sets up a match at Money in the Bank. Bam, more buys for Money in the Bank. You know what I'm saying? You're the guy who's always talking business, business, business. And sometimes the business and the story or what's best for the story don't always coincide. And you're seeing with TKO, business will always be the priority before whatever else is best. And I think that was best for, I guess, the business, for the bottom line. So I didn't necessarily have a problem with it. It was what it was to me. Again, I just didn't think that show overall was very good. And I think some of the booking to get to that show was questionable. Now the hope is Money in the Bank's going to be better, and I think we've got some interesting stories coming out of Money in the Bank and some of the qualifying for Money in the Bank. Um, Before we get into that, we did have a match between Penta, Chad Gable, and Dragon Lee, and during this match, they highlighted Chad Gable challenging Vikingo in AAA's and WWE's World Collides in a week, and they had a bit of a faux pas. They basically
Yeah.
told you
Yeah.
that Vikingo will be the new AAA champ, and he will be unseating Alberto Del Rio in what I believe that match takes place this Saturday. Maybe it's this Sunday. I'm not sure when that
This weekend. Yeah.
event is. So Chad Gable
Oops.
will be taking on the new AAA champ, which has not happened yet, in Vikingo. What are your thoughts on this? If you checked out the edited version of this, you could tell that there was a gigantic. If you've done anything with any digital editing with audio, you can tell what they went back and did with Michael Cole, basically kind of saying the challenger, and like it just like there was a spot where it was like fluid, 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 the challenger, fluid, fluid, fluid. It was like you heard it and it stuck out like a green hat with an orange bill. It was like I was like, oh my god, how do these guys do this? And again, we talk about TNA, we talk about the partnership with WWE. This is supposed to be, I guess this is supposed to be like a partnership. I know WWE owns AAA. To me, this relationship has gotten off to a very
Yeah.
rocky start.
That's
It
my
has gotten
note.
off
Yep.
to a very, very rough start.
Yeah.
And I don't know if WWE is going to invest the money into AAA to make AAA what it needs to be and what it should be. To me, this is really starting to feel like WWE buying wrestlers and then closing down a wrestling promotion.
It might, but or opportunities for Lucha Libre. I don't think they're going to close it down. It's just going to be NXT Mexico. That's just what it's going to be. And yeah, you're absolutely right. That's the best way to put it. It was not clean. It was not crisp. It was you had a lack of oversight on that one. But at the same token, you still get attention for it. And I'm definitely intrigued to see what they do in some of these matches because some of the matches are intriguing. And Vikingo versus Gable, very intriguing. And I thought the Penta match was pretty awesome as well to have on Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, and look, so coming out of the qualifying for Money in the Bank, Penta ends up getting the victory, defeats Chad Gable and Dragon Lee. In our main event, you had Seth Rollins beating Finn Balor and Sami Zayn to advance. Now, a lot of interesting things going on with Judgment Day on this show on Monday Night Raw. So Liv Morgan returns and she walks in on Roxanne Perez
Yep.
attempting to rub Dominic Mysterio's shoulders. Very uncomfortable for Dom, which I thought was fantastic. I guess the big question coming out of this is, do you want to see a Liv and Roxanne storyline? Do you want to see these two match up? Because Liv Morgan seemed very put off by Roxanne Perez early on in this program, and she kind of just hushed her. She was like, shh, and like just shut her up, and then was like, I'm gonna go set a match up for myself, and I'm gonna work to get myself into Money in the Bank. Do you want to see Liv and Roxanne? Do you want to have that type of match? Are you intrigued by that at all?
I am. I think that's great. I think you have a story. You have a reason. And it was very intriguing. It definitely caught everyone's attention, right? And I
Yeah.
think Liv Morgan jealousy is cute, and I love the fact that Perez is coming in and ruffling some feathers.
Yeah, and look, I think uncomfortable Dominic Mysterio is absolutely fantastic. So you've got all that going on. You've got Finn Balor now in the background laughing at Dominic Mysterio being uncomfortable with Liv Morgan. Liv Morgan then goes out, has a match. Roxanne Perez is out there, or Raquel Rodriguez is out there. Roxanne Perez shows up and kind of causes a bit of a distraction. Don't know if it was necessary. And Liv Morgan ends up losing the match to Kairi Sane. Kairi Sane gets her first singles victory in what feels like forever. At the end, you've got Liv Morgan in the back in the clubhouse yelling at um, Raquel Rodriguez, saying, "You know, it's your fault. You're the veteran. You should have been better, not her." And again, Finn just sitting there laughing. At this point, does it feel like Finn is poisoning the group from within? Does he feel like he's almost using Roxanne Perez as kind of that cyanide pill, and it's just slowly impacting the group, and he's just kind of there eating the popcorn in the background, laughing? He's that meme where he's just got the popcorn and he's just laughing and eating and laughing and eating. Does it feel like that to you?
That was great, wasn't it? Wasn't it great to see how he was just sitting there? And I think everyone definitely caught that and was enjoying him in the background just doing his thing.
Yeah, I thought it was really, really good. So then this then ends up transpiring into what you get with this now transpires into what you get later on in that main event where Dominic comes out and Dominic throws a chair into the ring, and it's kind of in between Seth Rollins, kind of in between Finn Balor. It was meant for Finn Balor. Finn Balor is a little slow, allows Seth Rollins the opportunity to hit the stomp, picks up the win. Finn Balor now not qualified for Money in the Bank. To me, so much going on within Judgment Day, right? Like, this was throughout the entire show. The entire show was built around the Judgment Day almost coming apart at the seams. Thought it was really, really fantastic. I will be interested to see what they do on Monday Night Raw to kind of follow this up, because I thought it was really, really well done. We then switch to SmackDown. You have Naomi qualify for Money in the Bank. You then have Andrade qualify for Money in the Bank, as Jacob Fatu had the match locked up, but Solo gets involved, costs him the match. Jacob loses his mind at the end, and Solo comes over and is like, "I was just trying to help." And he was like, "I don't need your help. I don't want your help." You now have another faction coming apart at the seams. What do you think about Jacob Fatu and Solo? Do you think this ends up leading to a match at Royal Rumble?
Ooh, yeah, I like it. I like the idea of a long-term build there. Fatu, Solo, the way that that dynamic has played out, I think can be very intriguing. And there's ideas that you can take in a lot of different directions. So I love it. I love the idea of what they can do with Jacob Fatu. Man, he's just man, sky's the limit. And I think everybody
Hmm.
that sees what he can bring to the table is excited. Whatever they decide to do, they can't go wrong. They just can't go wrong.
Yeah, I feel like if you go with that long term build, right? So you go Royal Rumble. That's a ways away. It gives Fatu it's enough time to keep his belt on him. He can then lose his belt. Solo could have cost him that, and that could be the thing that really triggers. And then you get months of that build. If you want to kind of expedite it, you've got SummerSlam coming up. That's about 3 months away. So depending on what you want to do there, you can do that as well. The other thing that I kind of left SmackDown asking myself again for a second week in a row: does anybody care about the Wyatt Six? There was this really nice tag team promo where everybody's in the ring. I thought Motor City Machine Guns telling Candice LeRae to shut up and go away. I thought that was absolutely fantastic. Um, then the Wyatt Six showed up and they stand in the ring and their music plays. And I was just out loud. I was like, does anybody care? Like, that's what I said. I was like, does anybody care? Because I don't care. I don't care about these guys. Do you care about the Wyatt Six? Does anybody care about the Wyatt Six? If you care about the Wyatt Six, let us know at Detroit Podcast at AdamRSGROZ. Because I don't care about the Wyatt Six. I just don't. Do you?
No, that's exactly right. Your point. To your point, it's just too many stops and starts. They gotta, like we said last week, start a feud, have some matches, have some storylines, and end a feud and go to the next one. We need some continuity and too many stops and starts. But now we do need to get to the point where we get to chomp our teeth at whatever they're going to get into.
Yeah, it'll. We'll see what happens. We'll see kind of where they go. I don't know if. I mean, obviously they're coming for the tag belts, but I just, I don't know. I don't get it. You also had this weird little vignette promo, so it was what it was. Uh, we end up closing SmackDown with Cody Rhodes in the ring cutting a promo, calls out Jey Uso. Everybody's yeeting, only for Cena's music to hit to cut it off. Cena jumps in the ring and tells both Cody and Jey that they're Cena wannabes. Invites Logan Paul down because he's an original and he does not want to be like John Cena. To this then ending up in a dust up where Jey was like, "If you want some, let's go. Come get some." And John Cena's like, "Let's just get out of here. We don't need to do this. Like, we'll save this fight for another day." And Logan Paul's like, "What are you talking about? Let's go." And it kind of shows a little bit of dissent between these two, while Cody and Jey stand tall and look like a unified front. I wanted to know if the ending of this, kind of that little bit of turmoil between John Cena, Logan Paul, and Cody and Jey looking like that unified front. You did not sound happy about Cody showing up on Saturday night's main event. Um, that kind of led to this. Does this get you a little bit more hype for this Money in the Bank match? Because I was a little bit excited. I was excited to kind of see where we were headed with this. I like the little bit of turmoil that both John Cena and Logan Paul have within each other, and I like seeing Cody and Jey obviously stand tall.
Yeah, it was cool. Look, some people could say, well, Money in the Bank, you don't need titles fought on it. You could have did differently, but it's an intriguing storyline. It's doable. It's workable. I would have liked to have seen what they advertised, which was Cody Rhodes confronting John Cena, which you didn't really get because
No,
it
you did
was,
not get that.
yeah, you didn't get that. So I would have liked to have seen them say something, honor it, and then do it. But I like the idea of Jey Uso getting more rub from Cody and Logan Paul just being around John Cena can only be a good thing. So it's going to be interesting. It'll be fun. And again, Triple H said it in his talks with the media. Some shows are place setter shows. These are nuggets sprinkled in to set up what's going to happen down the road. So, yep, this is one of those sentinel moments. Pay attention to what happened on SmackDown at the end of May because it will potentially come back in a vignette down the road.
For sure. What was your show of the week this week? I thought we had a really good Raw. I thought we had a really good SmackDown. I even thought Dynamite was very good.
Yeah, no, to me, I'm going to say Dynamite. Dynamite deserves it. I felt like after that promo, many people felt like, wow, Will Ospreay and Hangman Page really did well to sell the feud and a lot of good wrestling matches on Dynamite. That was better than what they did on WWE this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. I thought Dynamite was a fantastic show. All right, you ready for some news and notes before we get out of here in one of our longer episodes?
Hit me with this week's professional wrestling news and notes. What made your list?
A major WWE star was hurt in a primetime match this past weekend. On Saturday night's main event, Chelsea Green suffered an injury where she took on Zelina Vega for the WWE Women's U.S. Championship. After losing the match, Green took to Twitter to note that she had suffered a broken nose during the bout. If you watched Friday Night SmackDown, you've seen how ugly her nose looks. It is pretty broken. Dave Meltzer shared an update on Wrestling Observer Radio, noting that Green isn't expected to be taken off WWE TV following the injury, noting that she suffered a clean break. Meltzer said Chelsea Green broke her nose. It was a clean break, so it's not too bad. She's going to stay on television from what I gather. She is wearing a face mask to protect it. She used it as a weapon on Friday Night SmackDown. Her face looks pretty purple. It's not good. Now, two major call-ups are coming to fill out the women's roster in WWE. According to PW Nexus, Corey Hayes on Twitter, both Stephanie Vacour and Jordan Grace are expected to be called up to WWE's main roster, with Vacour moving to Raw and Grace set for SmackDown. It's unclear if Vacour and Grace's moves to the main roster will come via as of the yet unannounced 2025 WWE draft. I don't believe that's going to be the case because they're already teasing Vacour in different matches. Or in a similar fashion to Roxanne Perez and Julia, who were recently signed to Raw and SmackDown by Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis, respectively. I believe that'll be the way we'll end up going. The two ended up fighting this past weekend, with Vacour retaining her title and then dropping it Tuesday to JC Jane on NXT. Now, following up on a story we discussed last week, is SmackDown staying a 3-hour program or moving back to 2 hours? And if so, when? In a major new development, WrestleVotes has revealed on WrestleVotes Radio that SmackDown is set to remain a 3-hour show for the foreseeable future. With USA said to be happy with its performance, what was said was, according to a source, the plan for SmackDown's show length on USA Network changed back in January. WWE and USA agreed that the May 30th show would be the final 3-hour presentation, with the show reverting back to 2 hours on the June 6th edition. We are told that the show will remain 3 hours for the foreseeable future, as USA Network was steadfast on keeping it that length. Sources say USA has been very happy overall with the performance of the show. Numbers-wise, with the extra third hour, WWE has yet to comment on SmackDown's runtime publicly, but it sounds like we will be stuck with a 3-hour SmackDown on Friday nights. Fantastic. That's going to do it for this week's news and notes, my brother.
Make sure you follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Yeah. SmackDown. 3 hours. They like it. I think Adam and I kind of feel that.
Dude, it is rough. Dude, it is rough on a Friday night.
It's rough. It's too long. It's too long. And it's unfortunate, but USA Today is like, we like the programming. We like the time. And maybe if they have a clear plan, then maybe opportunities for all these new debuting characters maybe will have an opportunity to shine and flourish. And with all the new call-ups, we'll see how they all weave their way in moving forward. But as of now, it's not been good. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Love recapping pay-per-views. Love talking about the world of wrestling. Again, if you want to be entertained, the Boat Party from Heaven, definitely entertaining and fun. And one last thought, because we are a podcast, welcoming in the new #1 sports podcast in the world, the Cody Rhodes Podcast. Go enjoy it. I listened to it all. It's basically his mature wife sitting there as Cody Rhodes acts like a dude. And he's talking about, hey, like, why do you have nice breasts if you're not going to show them off? And he's barking. He's asking funny questions. He even asked, which was, I thought, the highlight. He's like, Brandy, I don't know if this is really a question I should ask you, but do you care that the wrestling community has a meme calling me the, Cody Raheem Rhodes? And she looks at him like, I got so much bigger things to worry about than what you're talking about. Like, really? You really brought me Cody Raheem Rhodes? If you haven't seen it, it's so funny. It's a little bit inappropriate in the racial tone nature, but it's funny if you can just put aside that kind of tone and just listen to it. It's just very funny. Cody Raheem Rhodes. And it's just funny. It's a good interview. And Cody Rhodes is a great personality. But one critique, as always, as a podcaster, I like the studio better than just people sitting down. Like, sit with a microphone, treat it like a show. But the casual nature is good. It should end up being very great, and people will support it and love it. So, the new #1 sports talk podcast is Cody Rhodes. It's awesome. Shows the support of professional wrestling. This ends this week's episode. I can't wait to fire it up, because next week, for the next episode of the Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast.